I'm just curious, just by a raise of hands, um, how many of you come to meditation through uh, from mindfulness, from the secular angle? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for letting me know. Okay. Um, oh, Yando, hi. Did you want to share something? No. Okay. And so in today's talk, I wanted to offer some points for our reflection and a way to practice. And this was inspired by uh, my morning meditation group, Wake Up Together, where there's been a lot of discussions around, the changes, the drastic changes that are happening um, around us in our government, in the world, and also in our very lives. We might be experiencing that too. Some of us who are perhaps more impacted by it. And how do we cope with change? And how can, this practice and these teachings help support us in making sense of this, but also going beyond that to come to terms and awaken to this very inevitable truth about life. And so many of us, I think we all know that, yes, change is inevitable, right? And uncertainty is always a degree of uncertainty that's always there. And then how is it that we can be free from suffering with the changes that we are witnessing in our lives? And when I say suffering, we can think of, just even that way in which when we see the changes that are occurring around us or in our own lives, the anxiety that can arise, the challenges within us of being able to accept what is happening and or just finding some sense of peace or you know relief from seeing the changes, especially when they're changes that are very um, concerning, right? Or conditions that we see might be unskillful, even harmful. So how do we cope with this? And this is one of the very fundamental teachings and practice of Buddhism of contemplating change. And you know, there's the one end of us. There's the three ways we can acquire wisdom. The first is Chintamaya Panya, so acquiring wisdom through uh, hearing the teachings and analyzing it and thinking about it. And then there's um, Suttamaya Panya, which means acquiring wisdom through hearing the the sutras, reading the sutras, memorizing the teachings, and then now it becomes information that we now know, knowledge that we now have. And then the third way of acquiring wisdom is through practice. So the practice of, in this case, practicing contemplating and investigating change and impermanence. So that's another way we'd say it. And in the language, the Buddhist language, the Pali language, Pali, Pali is the word anicca. So how do we come to terms and really awaken to change, to this quality that is always there, happening within us moment by moment. So as we have been sitting here practicing, coming back to our breath or the object of meditation that we choose, we use that object as a way to be able to see the changes that are occurring, right? So the changes in the breath coming and going. We use maybe sensations as the object in which we can also reflect and notice that change with the sensations rising, passing away, pleasant one moment, unpleasant or neutral, or nothing's there in the next. And so it's not just the object that we are uh, witnessing and becoming aware of, but it's what is occurring here. What is this saying about the truth of our nature of being human, nature of our mind, of our body, nature of everything around us, the construct of society, government, of people, organizations, of all things, all constructs, and seeing the becoming and then the passing away of things. And so in the meditation, you might have heard my invitation to continue to just observe this change. And this is how we practice contemplating change in a way that it doesn't just sit inside of our, yeah, I know that change is like this. But when it happens to us so closely, there's a way in which we suffer. It becomes more personal, right? Let's say we think about change in our job or finances or relationships, change in our health or status, all these things and many more that I haven't named, but you can think of how when it's so close to us, the impact that it has on us. And so just through the practice of meditation, one of the things that we are contemplating throughout the whole time is noticing, you know, wow, there's just this constant change that is occurring. Nothing is permanent. My thoughts, my feelings, these sensations, this emotion, all that's inside is this constantly evolving, changing experience. And when we spend time touching into this truth, this uh, this field of awareness that sees and recognizes change, and it helps us come to a place of fully comprehending this truth about how things really are. So even me saying it kind of takes it into the conceptual, because it's more of a practice, right? So first we take on a certain view and we practice with it, and we just keep adapting, practicing that view, holding that view as the possibility of how things really are for ourselves, like our version of reality. And then in time when we practice, whether it's formally on the cushion and like today's practice, or when we're out in the world, is this ongoing deep looking of, oh, look, it's like this. This is how it looks like out there. And inside of anicca, in impermanence, it's connected to anatta and dukkha, which is anatta means no self, and dukkha is suffering or dissatisfaction. So how these three things are tied together, it's always connected to each other. So when there's change, we experience suffering, particularly when the change is not going on, when things are not in our going our way, it's not favorable to the conditions we like, someone we love. is not here, or we didn't get what we want, or the rules changed, the law changed, our health changed for the worse, or and then the part that has the self in there, which is our preferences, our views, our beliefs, that also grasp onto wanting things to be more permanent, wanting things to stay a certain way. So I want to just read a short part from the sutra called the Anicca Sanya Sutta. And this was translated by Bhikkhu Kandana, who is a monk from the Thai forest tradition. And the sutra is translated as perception of impermanence. And so just a few lines from here I'd like to share. So imagine, practitioners, how during the autumn season, the farmer ceaselessly plows his farmland clean from all the leftover root systems from the previous harvest, along with all the shrubs that have grown. As he cuts through them, plows and even pulls them by hand, one by one, if necessary. In just the same manner, practitioners, when the perception of impermanence is continuously brought to one's awareness and reminded of again and again, then it becomes properly developed, whereby, as a result, it destroys all desires or longing for the experiencing of sensual pleasures. It destroys all desires or longing for further rebecoming, and it puts an end to and destroys all ignorance, while also eradicating the conceit, I am, from its very root. So that's one example of this way in which we are invited to practice bringing to our awareness and remembering again and again. Mindfulness means remembering, right? So again and again, remembering impermanence. And in all phenomena, all things that arise, we can see the nature of it coming and going, experiences coming and going, good times, hard times, money coming and going, politicians coming and going. Now we're just hoping that it's the going, not the coming. And that's also self-referential, right? So certain folks might feel otherwise around that. And the coming and going of all these things, we just continue to be in touch with that rather than the I that wants things to be a certain way. My view is that it shouldn't be like this. Or I believe that. There's a resistance when there's an I. When there's me, there's a way in which we reject how things really are. And the word Nietzsche, the Pali word Nietzsche, in and of itself means the absence of impermanence, of permanence. Sorry, the absence of permanence. That everything is limited to a certain duration and is uh, consequently liable to disappear. So whatever's here, we can count on it not being here at some point. So that's so contrary to this longing that we always have. I want to count on things to be here, wanting that certainty. And so here we're practicing to count on things not being here eventually in time. And to me, just thinking about that, counting on things not being here, how do we take that on in such a way that has us feel empowered rather than, this like like Eeyore, like, oh, nothing's gonna work out, you're gonna leave, things are not gonna go right, but rather it empowers us to cherish what is here if it's good. And to know that when things are not well, oh, this is not gonna last forever. This too will pass. It's here now, but knowing the quality of impermanence that's there in what feels solid and real. That investigation into impermanence help us to loosen that fixed, solid sense of whatever's here. That that feeling of forever could be replaced with changing, changing over time. Perhaps even when we examine this closely, we look at where our view has been misconstrued or distorted, so not from a place of judging ourselves, but rather, what part of my life have I been living as if it was constant, where I had longed and hoped for forever, where things will always be this way? Another way to also reflect within ourselves is what part of my life feels like it's going to remain the same. There's almost like we expect or rely that it will just assume that it will remain the same as it's just been smooth sailing, you know. Oh yeah, that's always going to be there. It's stable. But even in this way we practice contemplating impermanence, we recognize that even in what is stable, there's a sense of, it being uncertain as well. And that too can help us to kind of stay awake to when change does happen. That we step away from that waiting for the shoe to drop when things are going to be bad. But there's this, ah, yes, when that time comes, oh, of course, I'm not surprised. Yes, this remembrance has me know that, ah, yes, of course, that moment of change is here now, and it looks like this. And so, this contemplation of change in and of itself help us cope with change as it is here now, and in in the future, in the time to come. And a part of us that can also receive the goodness of what is here rather than fear of losing it. Because right now, if things are good, wherever they are in our lives, that we can be, you know, have that ability to let ourselves enjoy the good merits if that's there, knowing that yes, this will change. I wanted to just share the threefold nature, the facts, the threefold nature of reality is that one, all phenomena that appeared will disappear. Right? So everything that exists, that is here will disappear. And then two, all phenomena undergo the law of impermanence, the law of change, anicca. And third, all phenomena that appeared have a limited duration. And in the Buddhist practice, the way that we uh, access this insight is through using the framework of our body and mind. We practice this internally, so we experience it within ourselves as it's happening. So when we are meditating, we are in touch with just the constant changing nature of our experience, coming, going, coming, going. So we're moving beyond just, first we begin by trying to calm and soothe ourselves and nourish ourselves and get to that place where we feel the serenity and the tranquility and peace. And then when our body and mind is calm, now we can move into the investigation side of the practice, contemplating the nature of how things really are. That, oh, change is like this. Oh, it's stressful. Oh, when I take this personally, I'm suffering. It affects me. But when I just recognize this as how things are, I can be with this. I can, you know, I can take this on. I'm all right. There's a sense of okayness with the stress, with change, with that recognition that I have no control over this. So that in the sutra, the I am conceit is the part of us that thinks that also, I could do something about this, but this is mine. These feelings are mine. These sensations are mine. But it's just a recognition that, oh, this is the body doing what it does. Oh, this is the mind that through various conditions now gives rise to these thoughts, these feelings, these emotions. And so with mindfulness and wisdom, sati and panya, we can contemplate change moment to moment. Mindfulness sponsors each moment for us to um, be in touch with what is happening. So that I mentioned that like awareness is like this field that whatever lands, phenomena lands inside of this field, we are in touch with it. Ah, this is what's happening right now. Oh, sound, or oh, sight, seeing. And so we're not reaching for it. It's just coming to through our sense doors. And we are mindful, we are aware, We're in touch with not just that one particular object, but the field of it that holds and can witness all the objects. And then wisdom is what allows us to look at it deeply in a way that has us recognize this human experience that we're having. So we're not caught inside of the experience, but we're able to be outside looking at the experience, looking at, yeah, this is what it looks like out there with change, so much suffering. So the recognition right there is the recognition of suffering. And there's not an I that is when the mind is calm and the body's at ease. There isn't this person judging and, you know, having a view or a thought, but there's just a witnessing of what is happening. So that's where the discursive mind drops away, the self drops away. There's just a recognition. So this, I just named the three marks of existence, which is impermanence, no self, and suffering, or in other words, dissatisfaction or unsatisfactoriness. That's also another translation for that. But just seeing the stress. Oh, wow, this is stressful. And recognition that stress is an inherent part of being human. So through the practice of meditation, we are cultivating this view, this angle of seeing that helps us be with the changes that are here. And we move from that place of anxiety or fear or worry, to a place of equanimity and tranquility that can be in touch with this very truth. And I want to say, it's that moment where there's a letting go of how things should be to, and it's not so much that there's the word surrender in everyday term, which is used like giving up, but it's more of a uh, moving back to see, the big picture of causes and conditions that gives rise to certain change and certain things becoming, and then causes and conditions that also have things disperse and pass away. So our view become broader, our eyes are open, our awareness is wider, can take in a wider angle of seeing things, seeing reality. And I want to share another uh, part of the sutra. This is the Anicca Sutta. So this is the sutra on impermanence, translated by Bhikkhu Sujata. Mm. Practitioners, form is impermanent. What's impermanent is suffering. What's suffering is not self. And what's not self should be truly seen with right understanding like this. This is not mine. I am not this. This is not myself. Seeing truly with right understanding like this, the mind becomes dispassionate and freed from defilements by not grasping. The first is form is impermanent, and the next, feeling is impermanent. And what's impermanent is suffering. And what's suffering is not self. And what's not self should be truly seen with right understanding like this. This is not mine. I am not this. This is not myself. Seeing truly with right understanding like this, the mind becomes dispassionate and freed from defilements by not grasping. So first we have form is impermanent, and then we have feeling is impermanent. And then the next, perception is impermanent. So the way we see things, our perception, our views, our opinions, perception is impermanent. And then the next is our, here is translated as choices, or the mental formations or mental volition. So choices is impermanent. And then there's consciousness that is also impermanent. So these are the five uh, aggregates that makes up this construct of self, of, of this me, this my, I. And when we can also contemplate on those very things, those five mental processes that we consider ourselves. Who I am is someone who believes in this. Who I am is someone who has these certain preferences and these beliefs, these, this view, worldview, this body, or these feelings are mine. And so contemplating impermanence about the body, feelings, perception, mental formations, and consciousness, and seeing it as ever changing, ever changing. And we can see in our life that moment where we change our mind about something or someone or about our view around something, and recognizing that change, that ever-changing quality is, there's stress there. There's uh, a component of stress in change. If a practitioner's mind is dispassionate towards the form element, the feeling element, the perception element, the choices element, and the consciousness element, it's freed from defilements by not grasping. So here the word defilements is, basically anger, greed, right? Our desire for things, illusion. So all of these unwholesome qualities of the mind that arise, our frustration around things, our anxiousness, our, you know, discontent around things. So it's freed from defilements, from mental defilements, because we're no longer grasping. And being free it's stable. Being stable, the mind is content. And being content, you're no longer anxious. And not being anxious, they personally become extinguished. So if a practitioner's mind is dispassionate towards body, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness, it's freed from defilements by not grasping onto these things. Being free, it's stable. Being stable, it's content. Being content, they're not anxious. Not being anxious, they personally become extinguished. And the practitioner understand that the spiritual journey has been completed. Rebirth is ended. The spiritual journey has been completed. What had to be done has been done. There is nothing further in this. There is nothing further for this place. So this is the Sutra on Impermanence. Mm. Taking a moment to just let the words settle. How does it feel like inside? What's the feeling tone of this moment? And I want to invite us to take a moment to also reflect on where it is in our life that we're holding on to something, holding on to something that is shifting, changing. It wants to go, but we are holding on. Is it inside of us or outside of us? And if you can sense into that place within you where maybe there's a tightness, a tension, maybe there's a heaviness, or maybe there's nothing there. Maybe it's numb. Maybe it's something yet to be revealed. But even just being in touch with the way we hold up our body, the tension, there's something that the body is holding on to, holding up to something. And then the mind can experience this release, release from that object, that phenomena. We touch back into that stability within ourselves. And when we feel that stability inside, we touch into contentment. There's a maybe a lightness, a spaciousness, a sense of solidity. And when we touch into that peace or that ease, that joy maybe, or that goodness, the fear, the doubt, the anxiety, naturally, by way, drops away. And so the practice of meditation helps us to access that stability so we can see deeply into what we're holding on to or what we can't seem to let go of emotionally or mentally or physically. There's the wisdom that recognizes when it's time to let go, that this thing is on its way out. So it's time to loosen the grip, the mental, emotional grip, or the physical tightening up. And so, in that place where our inner wisdom comes through and we can allow for impermanence to take its place, we welcome it, we let it in, maybe even dare to smile at what is to change, dare to face it, to look at it in the eyes, and with a sense of stability within us, knowing that this is an unshakable truth that I am in touch with. How might that make us available for joy or for peace or contentment when we let go of what's no longer here, what has come to pass, or just even recognizing the pain, the suffering of what is here, if that is what's here now. It feels like this. And because awareness doesn't cling onto anything and doesn't judge anything, there's a freedom that we naturally step into in that place of acceptance. We're not forfeiting, we're just first acknowledging how things really are. And then with that kind of stability within, we are on the path of right understanding, the path of right view, right action, right effort, right speech naturally arise, right intention, right livelihood, right mindfulness, and right concentration. And so this is a view that we take on and then one that we practice contemplating, investigating throughout our day. It's almost like this that we carry with us in the background of our experience. Oh, yes, impermanence or change. I like the word change more for me because it just feels easier to relate to. It's like, oh, yep, here we go again. The changes are here. So finding a word that you could really relate to, whether it's impermanence, anicca, or change, or just the inconstant, nature of things, the limited duration of things, the ways that we can't count on things being here forever, changing over time. Really open up for you as you are in touch with the harder parts of change right now that's occurring within or around. And if anyone would like to share, you can, um, on Zoom, you can raise your virtual hand. And for those of you in the room, if you raise your hand, um, I will give you the mic here so that everyone on Zoom can hear you as well. So we'll move into our sharing and reflection and questions and anything you'd like to offer into the space. All is welcome here. Maybe you're struggling with something, you're grappling with something. You know, the power of sharing in community can make such a difference because even in the person who is sharing, sharing is a practice of generosity. We're giving of ourselves to others, and that gift could make a difference with someone else. It can touch someone's heart and have them see something for themselves or relate and connect to the listeners. Hope was to have this talk be try to kind of come away from the conceptual, theoretical part of this teaching and having you stay inside the heart, inside your internal space, just kind of looking, feeling, sensing into how it's been like for you and your relationship to change. Um, about a week ago, I went through a big change, and when I had shared that with a good friend, she said, "Oh my goodness, you don't look like you're affected by it at all. How are you so at peace?" I said, I'm so grateful for this practice because this practice is the very thing that helps me be with such change. That it's not a surprise that this happened. It was this, it wasn't like I was waiting for the shoe to drop. It was just knowing that in anything becoming, that there's a moment it will pass away. But while I was there, we can, fully be with it, with all of ourselves, not afraid, like to come close, but then in the moment and fully engage with whatever's in front of us. And when it's gone, there's this recognition, yes, this is the human condition. And I too am not excluded from this law. And this too, this very, construct was not excluded from this. And she said to me, "You even look happy. Why are you happy?" She's like, "It's affecting me to hear about this change you have in your life." And I said, "Well, I'm happy because I see the change before my very eyes. I touch into, this truth so clearly. It's like this. It's like this." And I'm just stunned at how this practice has worked through me in these moments. Like, wow. I could remember, some years before where change like this would have had me, oh, suffer so much. The clinging, the grasping, the wishing things to be a certain way. the trying to make it happen, try to, there's that part of me, the very ambitious and determined part that's just like, no, 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 gotta make this work, gotta keep this thing going. And when the truth is to recognize, oh, it's passing, allow. So let the change take its course because it's nature. So the more that I come to see and allow for nature to just occur, there's just a stepping back and witnessing, oh, yeah, there's only so much this person, this one can do. And then the rest is just stepping back and flowing with change. Anyone have anything you'd like to share? Anything resonated with you? Mhm.
Tony, he, him.
Can everyone on Zoom hear Tony? Can you give a thumbs up? Yes? Okay, candle. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Um, so I would say in a way, I wish I heard this talk a week ago because a few days ago, around midweek, so our oldest son, um, due to a major change in his life and uh, being kicked out by his girlfriend of 10 years. So then he moved into our lives, back into our house for a while, and we're trying to help him. And he has a very strong personality, but also really into efficiency and optimization. And he asked if he could reorganize our kitchen. And it first began with the drawers, and then it became the fridge contents, and then the freezer, and then the cabinets, and everything's moving around. And during the midweek, I'm very, very busy with my work, particularly Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays. And so a lot of this was happening, or at least phase 2 or 3 was happening right at that time. And I kind of lost it and was really struggling with all this change happening, feeling like, wow, this is moved over here now. This feels really inefficient to me. And yet it apparently makes sense to the others. And so it was hard for me. And but now thinking about it and thinking, this is part of change. We didn't have to have the kitchen always the way it was. It can be more efficient, sure, and even if parts of it seem less efficient from my mind, my perception, that's okay. It's just experiencing it and embracing it and kind of, I guess you could say, joining the effort. So, um, so I feel much more at peace with it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Tony. I even hear in Tony your share just the way that we can offer kindness to change, right? That there could be this feeling, the sensing into grace and even the forgiveness that is there to the change that occurred. Forgiveness is on my mind quite a bit because this morning in our wake up together, I talked about how we can bring in that element of of kindness that is rooted in forgiveness, which is that aspect of letting go, you know, and that frees us up and allows us to be with the change, with what is, no longer here or what has shifted. Mm. And I empathize with you because I just can't imagine what that's like if someone came into the kitchen and moved things around. Mm. Yeah. Anyone else maybe would like to share with the moment or question? Mhm. Mhm.
Hi, hello. I'm Shannon, he, him. Yeah, just listening to your talk. I was kind of reflecting on yeah, what that change meant for me. And I have often felt, I guess I was feeling how, gosh, in my life, I've had a lot of change, but it's been very always kind of, not always, but as I think about it, it feels positive to me. And I think one of the things you mentioned was think about things that in your life where you expect to always be permanent. And I was struggling. And I was like, oh, what is permanent? Like, no, no, everything feels sort of fluid to me. And life does feel sort of constant change is something I've come to used to over. And so I'm like, oh, okay, change. I'm good with change. But then I can there's a deeper, more you talked in different angles you were kind of sharing on how to look at impermanence and change. I was thinking, well, there's always a deeper process you can get into where it's like, okay, I can feel like, oh, I'm great with change. And I'm just sort of that type of personality. And my life has been change. And that's, positive, negative. But overall, I can handle change. But as I sat with it, I can think, okay, wait, no, there is maybe anxieties that come up at work or um, just little things that I could really like to even deeper. And so even when I feel like, oh, I'm the master of change,
Mhm.
initially, not well, it's kind of, yeah, but as I sat, so of course, it's that maybe is part of the ego, or maybe I don't know, but it was just very helpful because I could say, okay, I could sit with that even more and go even deeper to kind of embracing that. So yeah, just that
Yeah.
was my quick thought, but thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And that, and that's the beauty of this practice, that we peel back the layers, and there's always another layer that's even more subtle and more subtle, right? And keep mining and digging for where is it that there's still a part of me that's hanging out in a comfortable place, you know? But until something happens, that will come out. And as you're sharing, I was thinking about, how I disrupted my conditions of living. And like I went from like this, eat what I want, cook what I want, everything, lights on, off, whenever, to then a totally new environment where I've just been, it's great. I wanted to do this for my practice, to see like, okay, so let's put this into practice, see how it feels like to be dropped into a living space where it's like there are rules that are made up along the way. Or certain things, and it's like, oh yeah, I could see those little things that start to come out inside of me, that now I have something to practice with, because it was just so smooth and so comfortable and well. And it's like, it was funny, I was saying, like, when I went to this place, I made a joke, I said, I thought I was awakened, but then when I came here, I realized I'm not. So yeah, I appreciate that. Mhm. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Mhm. Mhm.
Hi, I'm Rob, he, him. I think the first footnote of change for me was my back was killing me
Can you,
through the whole set. And
can you
so I
put
was
the mic
really
up?
looking forward to
Can you
change.
put the mic up a little bit closer
Oh,
to you?
sorry.
Yeah.
So I was really looking forward to the change of uh, relieving the pain in my back.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that I appreciate about change is, and this is definitely an aspirational thing because I don't do it well, but um, leaving space for the person before me to be to be and staying in the moment and trying not to have an idea of who they are because they may be trying to change. There may be things that they want to work on. And my view of who someone is can keep them, that's holding them down from perhaps the change that they want to invoke in themselves. So I think being somewhat aspirational, I've experienced it where I've sort of thought to myself, well, no, that's not really me. You're talking to, and these would be family members or whatever. So I think embracing change. I think there's a big part of being in the moment. I think that allows you to have a healthy attitude towards what's in front of you and not let your mind get ahead of yourself about, well, what might this change be? What, you know, change itself can be difficult, but anticipating something as a negative result just adds to it, adds to the anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's about it.
Thank you so much, Rob. I appreciate some of the things that you said, like touching on that that way of that practice of having a beginner's mind, right? When we are listening to someone from that place of newness, right? So having this angle of seeing things brand new, what we're not fixed on, a person, like you were using the example of a person being a certain way. So we listen to them in a certain way, but there's this beginner's mind that can be with whatever's here newly. So by practicing the beginner's mind, we can adapt, to the experience as it is now, not how it was, right? We receive it newly, and it can make way for the change. It allows for the change and the newness, like what Tony was saying earlier. Oh, and then it's like the mind opens up, and there's an expansiveness that's like, oh, this could actually be here too, and that will be fine, right? So we touch into the all rightness of things that are also there inside of change. So that was like for me, I was leaning into that with what changed in my life. And I was like, oh, there's also this all rightness. There's also the possibility of goodness that is here inside of this change. And if I keep leaning into that rather than leaning into what was, what could have been, what's no longer, and I'm leaning into this, the mind continues to open and relaxes and stays, expanded rather than contract when it's clinging and wanting something that's no longer, or even when we have a fixed view about someone, or we listen to them in that same way, there's a contracted state. But here with the beginner's mind, there's openness, there's a seeing them newly, seeing things newly, seeing them now, here and now, like this. Anyone else with anything you'd like to share? Reflect, comment, question? We'll take this. Mhm.
Um, I'm Mars. My pronouns are they, them. Kind of going off of what you were talking about like seeing other people as a fixed identity. I think the concept of the self is something that I've struggled with feeling really fixed in. And yeah, I think a source of suffering that I've noticed in my life is wanting to feel connected and wanting to have my social relationships look a certain way. And I think I've found that is, me gripping to what I think my life should look like and what my friendships should feel like, or what kind of people I want around me. And I think something that I'm working on is letting myself be less fixed in what I need to be like for other people to be in my life, and what I want other people to look like in my life, and not being so tightened around what I expect.
Mm, mm, Thank you, Iris. Mhm, mm, mhm. There's this way in which, as I'm hearing Mars share and thinking about, that way in which we, in change, one of the things that we're afraid of most is that there's just this quality of uncertainty or ambiguity, right? So we're almost like we're leaning into that. I don't know. I don't know how this is gonna look like, how this is gonna be, and it's like getting comfortable with I don't know. We're learning to really feel a sense of okayness with what we don't know about how it's gonna look, how it's gonna be, how it's going to come to be, what will be, right? And even when we think about the political uh, climate right now, I don't know. We don't know. If we just stay in that we don't know, I don't know, instead of in the, you know, trying to make or put something in there, and we just allow to be in that I don't know. There's a space that allows for a movement and fluidity and maybe even some uh, sense of uh, possibility that arise because we allow for example, for people to be the way they are, like Bob was saying. We allow for that isn't a word I want to come to, that non-dualistic view to arise, or that uh, openness. There's a curiosity that's there, but also leaning into the mind that stays expanded and open. And mhm. And so we're practicing internally to remain aware and in touch with this, this quality of mind. And when the mind contracts, where is there a fixed view? And when the mind is open, how have I opened up internally? And what does that feel like? The feeling tone, the emotional tone of that as well. And how does it feel like in the body as well? Hi, James. You see your hand is up.
Hello. Yeah, I was thinking, about what you said about changing relationships. And then again, when you're just talking about I don't know, it's really, but really, I think helps. And it's kind of the part of the practice is equanimity, because it just, things smooth out and you don't hit the bumps in the road. Because yeah, I've noticed changing relationships, and even at work, when emails, come in one after the other, and I'm not as bothered by it now as like I used to be. And yeah, like you said, the practice really helps. It really, really helps. And by the way, oh, my name, my pronouns are he, him. But yeah, that's why I love the practice, and like Thich Nhat Hanh really explains it so well, and I like how you explained it. So yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Yes. Isn't it so great that we have, these practices that helps us to contextualize our experience, contextualize our suffering, contextualize this self, this identity of, me, mine, I, and how we can go beyond mind, beyond self, or step outside of it for some moments to see, oh, there's another way, another realm, another, view that can help us ride the change and the changes of life. And we come to the end of our session, and Rob, would you like to talk about Dana? What do you think? What do you feel? Your demonstration of that is so beautiful. So here's the mic. Yeah. Oh no.
Public speaking is one of my great fears. So,
Maybe I can turn this to you too.
so Donna, it's really just simply an open invitation to give back, perhaps from what you've learned or gained, and if you can. And it's a generous way to request donations, is to just say, well, whatever you can manage, and if you did get a benefit, it's a wonderful way to help us maintain our building rental and all that sort of thing. So there's kind of the mundane parts, but some of the rewarding parts are also the feeling of generosity. And even if it's just a hearty thank you or a hug, or share something with a stranger on the street, that's also the Dana that goes out to the world. So that's as short as and sweet as I'll make it. There's some barcodes over there, and I did just figure out how to use one of them today because I just started using Venmo. So anyway, it's up to you. There's a little cash thing there too. So I hate talking about money, but there it is. And anyone that hasn't signed up, we would love to get your name and email so that we can send a little newsletter, just so you know what's coming up for future meetings.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Thank you, Rob. That was short and sweet, and yes, thank you so much. Yes, and I was wondering if there was anyone that had decided that they were going to stay for the social hour. We forgot to post the changes about the social hour. Does anyone? Yes, you too. You want, okay, yeah. So today we'll have social hour. Basically, we'll all meet down in the cafeteria in about 5-10 minutes, and we'll have some of us brought snacks and teas and things, and come join us, and we'll be able to just mingle and chat and get to know each other. And then after today, we'll be moving social hour to just the first Saturday of the month. Okay, so yes, that kind of release some of the setups and everything, and breaking down. But yes, we will be first Saturday of the month. You can bring a dish, a snack, a beverage, or something to share. And so today we'll have our a social hour. Today will be the final one until we transition to that. But please join me and join us for social hour, and sit for as long as you'd like to, or just pop in for a little bit, whatever you choose. And love to meet you and hear from you and chat with you and get to know you. Thank you all for coming, and I wanted to just I'd like to maybe just invite the bell and take a few breaths, and if you would join me. And I also like to offer a very short song that are hopefully words that can carry you through this time of your life with whatever is is in your heart, with impermanence and how that is for you now. So if you can bring our awareness back to our body, grounding ourselves in the body, touching the feet of the chair, the floor, feeling the breath as it flows in and out of the body. Start with a song and close with the 3 sounds of the bell. And this is a song that I learned from a insight meditation teacher named Caroline Jones. Have you seen how fleeting is the world? Like the dewdrop bubbles in a stream, lightning in a summer cloud, a phantom and a dream. Have you seen how fleeting is the world? Like a dewdrop, a bubble in the stream, lightning in a summer cloud, a phantom and a dream. And you're welcome to join me if you'd like. Have you seen how fleeting is the world? Like the dewdrop, a bubble in the stream, lightning in a summer cloud, a phantom and a dream. Have you seen how fleeting is the world? Like a dewdrop, a bubble in the stream, lightning in a summer cloud, a phantom and a dream. Have you seen how fleeting is the world? Like a dewdrop, a bubble in the stream, lightning in a summer cloud, a phantom and a dream. Thank you for joining me in the practice and in community today. May you go with peace. Thank you, everyone. And to those of you on Zoom, good to see you. Please take care.
Thank you, Trina. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Mhm. And
I just
bring-
wanted to remind remind you about our YouTube channel and our Facebook page
Oh, yes.
so that people could join and like and subscribe and do all those things so that we can have more than 4 or 5 or 6 subscribers. And great to see you, Tiffany. Is that you back there at the door?
No, no,
No,
it's not
okay.
Tiffany.
But nice to see Mars again too. So
Yes. Mars is
bye-bye.
waving. Bye-bye. Bye, James. Bye, Kendall.
Bye.
Bye, Kimberly. Ready for takeoff. 3, 2, 1. Blast off.